Joining us from Los Angeles with more on this, former Assistant U.S. Attorney David Katz and political analyst Peter Matthews, a professor of political science at Cypress College. David, I want to turn to you first. When you read that statement by the special counsel, does it mean that the BuzzFeed article is wrong?
No, I don't think that it means that it's wrong, and I don't think anyone at CNN or in the mainstream media has anything at all to be concerned about. They were just reporting something, and we said last night, we made it very clear that if it was true, and we're still trying to find out if it's true and how much of it is true, and of course, the House now is in Democratic hands, and they're going to investigate how much of it's true. They're going to get these documents, these internal memoranda and emails from the Trump organization and see how much of it's true, because the story last night, and Mueller's not disputing it, is that Michael Cohen just confirmed a story that already existed, that was already out there, and that Mueller's team had. I think that Mueller's main concern here is to make sure that the world knows that it did not leak from his shop. And he spent a day and he made it clear it didn't leak from his shop. And as a former assistant U.S. attorney, I could not believe
let me interrupt you for a second, David.
It would come from any assistant U.S. attorney, but it obviously came from somebody, two people in law enforcement, Cyril.
David, are you telling us that in your estimation after reading the special counsel's statement, you believe that the substance of the article, in other words, the fact that the president directed Michael Cohen to lie to Congress, that might still be true?
I believe that the substance of it may very well be true, and it will be borne out by the House investigation and by Mueller's own investigation. I think that Mueller wanted to make sure that the world knew and that the Trump administration knew it wasn't from his shop, because Mueller has navigated through much more difficult waters than this story, and he's managed to stay alive and keep his investigation alive when it was all Republicans in control of it. And I think that Mueller was being careful, and I think that's about all the statement means for now.
Okay, well, in that case, I have a theory I want to put to you, but I'll get to that in a minute. Let me get to Peter. Peter, did Democrats overreact to this BuzzFeed report? The House Intelligence Committee promised an investigation into this. I want to show you some tweets. Congressman Joaquin Castro tweeted, "If the BuzzFeed story is true, Trump must resign or be impeached." We have another one. Congressman Eric Swalwell tweeted, "More evidence of collusion." He went on to say if Donald Trump directed his lawyer to lie, it was to conceal the underlying allegation from being exposed as true. Did they jump the gun in your estimate now?
Not exactly, Cyril, because they said if the story were true. They didn't say it is true. And there was a caveat there, and I think they're waiting to see what comes forth. I think David is absolutely right that Mueller was just trying to make sure that no one thought it was coming from his office. So who leaked it? What were the sources of BuzzFeed? Was it from the Justice Department or the Southern District of New York? We don't know yet, so we have to wait and see what happened there. But ultimately, Cyril, this question is a political question. If the president's done something, high crimes and misdemeanors does not boil down to a legal question. It's a political one. Has he compromised the Constitution? Has he challenged the rule of law? In those cases, those could be considered high crimes and misdemeanors. So we have to look at whether Congress has the political will to impeach and or try him in the end and remove him. It just depends on that. It won't boil down to ultimately a political, legal question.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they can only have political will if they actually have reasonable grounds to do so, you know, if they have ammunition. And right now, following this special counsel statement, who has ammunition? I would say it's the president, and with ammunition for his accusations of fake news and media bias.
Well, he can certainly flip it that way and say, look, I was right all along, which he's already doing, and so is Giuliani. The question is, there are many
Peter,
other things.
It's not just flipping. I mean, there is an explosive media report that is that we are now being told by the special counsel, who should know, that report is inaccurate. So it wouldn't be spinning, right?
Well, I think they're implying that parts of it are inaccurate. Certain characterizations are inaccurate, not the whole report. I don't think it's the whole report that these times. It could be seen that way, certainly. But I think there's far more to go here, and we've got to give it some time at this point. But I don't believe that. I think it's important that Congress investigate this. So Democrats are right in having taken over the House. They need to launch a very formal and deep investigation of what actually is happening and start subpoenaing people to get documents about this as well.
You know,
from the president.
During Watergate, there was an investigation by Congress and also by the special prosecutor, both at the same time. And I think it's logical that this will be investigated by a House committee. The emoluments will be investigated by a House committee. There are going to be other things that the Republicans, when they were in control of the House, wouldn't investigate, Cyril, that are going to be investigated. They have the same power as the grand jury. The House can subpoena people. They can have stuff in closed session, like a grand jury that sits secretly. They can make everyone come to a special room like they did with the Kavanaugh follow-up investigation so it doesn't get leaked to the public. The House has a huge amount of power to get to the bottom of this. But let's remember that the Trump Organization employees got immunity. Do you remember that? They got immunity to give over records and to testify. Michael Cohen was also he said in open court that Individual One was involved with him. Individual One was President Trump. That's how he got that moniker from the testimony that was given in open court. And Mueller said as to Cohen's testimony and representations that they were credible and that he should be given a concurrent sentence because what Cohen said about being directed by President Trump was credible.
Yeah, we're really in this gray zone right now where we just don't know what is actually true, what details can be corroborated, what can't. We at CNN, I'd like to point this out again, have not corroborated the aspects of the BuzzFeed report, well, the entire story, in fact. David, real quick, I want to put that theory to you that I was talking about earlier. Earlier on CNN, Preet Bharara, and follow me here, the former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, hypothesized that if Mueller were about to release a report alleging something like what we saw in the BuzzFeed story, he wouldn't have put out that statement. In other words, Mueller likely does not have evidence that Trump ordered Cohen to lie. Otherwise, he wouldn't be putting out this statement. Do you agree with that or disagree?
Well, I don't think I entirely agree with that because if you remember, there was reporting that Cohen worked with some Trump lawyers as part of a joint defense agreement so that at least some Trump lawyers were aware of what Michael Cohen was going to falsely testify to Congress. On top of that, Cohen gave a press release before he gave his testimony in front of Congress that took the position that he was going to say that there was no more negotiation about a Trump Tower Moscow after January 2016. We now know it's certainly true. It's not just Cohen saying so. It's certainly true that the negotiations went on into the summer of 2016 while Trump was in the heart of his campaign. So I think we really need to stay tuned, and I think Mueller was just being careful. He's always the careful prosecutor. And as BuzzFeed says, they stand by the story, and the editor knows the two law enforcement sources for the story.
All right, David Katz, Peter Matthews, thank you both for joining us.